I'm an addiction doctor. As you know, certain drugs were now not tested for. We're just going to say it, marijuana is not tested for anymore in most of the leagues. I think the NFL still tests for it. And I've noticed in my own personal experience is that, again, controlling the controllables. You can control what you put in your body. And I have found that a lot of athletes that struggle may oftentimes have that in their, lifestyle. And I've run into some athletes that have recently stopped using that substance, and their careers are.
Dr. Rahsaan Lindsey is a triple board certified psychiatrist with more than 2 decades of clinical practice. In the sports world, Dr. Lindsey has worked at the highest levels of the NFL, NBA, WNBA, and Major League Baseball. Away from the field, he remains deeply rooted in hospital and community medicine and devotes time to a range of volunteer and community initiatives. Across both worlds, the locker room and the hospital ward, his focus is the same: helping people quiet the noise, control the controllables, and reclaim who they are.
Welcome to another episode of Unlimit Your Potential. I am your host, Seth Pepper, and we have the great honor of having Dr. Lindsey in the house. I'm really excited. I've heard a lot about you. I've spoken with you over the phone. I've talked with your son as well. And you have a great history working at the highest level. We're performance focused on, well, I would say the human condition,
yes,
ultimately.
Yes.
But we both share the experience of working with top professionals. You worked with the NBA, the NFL, the major leagues, MLB, probably others as well.
Yes, don't forget the WNBA.
WNBA as well. And so, I was excited to be able to kind of go on this journey, and you brought in a little twist. We're going to turn things around. You have questions as well,
I
so
do.
let's have some fun.
I can't wait.
So why don't you give us a little bit of your history, like where you came from. You mentioned that you were an athlete, and at the highest level. I think the highest level. I don't. You don't have to play in the pros. It can be in college and beyond. So why don't you take us through your journey early on?
We'll start back in my hometown. So a little town called Middletown, Ohio. It's like in the southwestern corner near Cincinnati, between there and Dayton. Okay. So grew up in a small house, my mother and I. My older sister was 18 years older than me, so she was like having another mom.
Yeah.
So she left the house, went over to the Navy, and it was really my mom and I. And she had me in public school, and she could see the trajectory I was going on and said, hey, you got to get out of there. We're sending you to Catholic school. So literally, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now if she didn't make that one decision.
Wow.
Yeah, so that one decision made a big difference in my life. Did Catholic school, I think, until, say, from 2nd grade to 6th grade. And do you know anything about Catholic school?
Well, my wife's from Ohio, and she went to Catholic school,
okay.
And it's not a subject it was a struggle.
The thing I remember most was nuns and rulers.
Yes.
And that really got me where I needed to be and, motivated to learn.
Yeah.
So got out of there, went back to public school in 7th and 8th grade, and really didn't have a lot of footing. I was just, I covered all these subjects already, and I sort of was fighting back. Didn't really care about school that much, but it really didn't hit my stride until 9th grade. So made it to high school, started turning it on academically. Things started falling in place athletically. So I was a baseball player and a basketball player. My first love was baseball. I really thought I was like the right-handed Fred McGriff. I really thought I was going to be that guy. Watched the Fab Five come up as well, so I wanted to play basketball. And that was my life, academics and sports. So didn't really get a lot of offers. I couldn't tell the difference between a fastball and an off-speed.
That helps.
Yeah, it kind of helps. So I didn't have that eye, but if it was a fastball, I was hitting it out the park. But pitchers eventually figured out, hey, you can't hit an off-speed pitch. So really hampered my ability I wanted to go to Division I baseball. Yeah. Didn't happen. I get this call from, I couldn't really understand him. And he said he's from this little school called Brandeis University. And it's in Boston. They say Boston. And I couldn't understand him, right? Because he has this Boston accent. And he said they were interested in having me come by, think about the school. Never heard of the school in my life. So I said, why not? My mom was sick at the time, and my sister said, we're going to tell her some good news. We're going to pick a school right now. So I had done all the applications, got everything back, and she said, which one's giving you the most money? And I had all that calculated before there were spreadsheets. And it was Brandeis. I'm like, I don't know where it is, but I'm getting the most money there. And she said, that's where you're going. So that's why I went to Brandeis University. So went there, did not know it was a Jewish university until I got there. Zero clue that it was Jewish. So you think about it, I have a Muslim name. My first name is Rahsaan, named after Rahsaan Roland Kirk, jazz player.
Awesome.
Went to a Baptist church, went to a Catholic school, and I ended up at a Jewish university. So I have it all, right?
Yeah.
Did 4 years there, got out, and then I actually met my future wife about 4 days after graduation. Come to find out she's going to a college in Ohio as well. And so she's going to Wilberforce University, HBCU, and I am going to now med school at Case Western in Cleveland. So we maintained our relationship, and then we said, hey, where are we going to go? And then we said, hey, Maryland. She got into Maryland's business school. I got into Maryland's psych program for a psych residency. And we really just traveled through our journey together through Baltimore, Maryland, and eventually got out of, child psychiatry fellowship program. I did adult psychiatry. And I find myself on the departmental softball team, playing softball with a team called the Psycho Relics. Bunch of old guys playing softball, right? And there's me trying to hold on to baseball. And you remember Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens having their issues, right?
Yeah.
So baseball sort of shined a light on steroids, but then they also shined a light on, hey, what are these green pills? Why are all these baseball players taking all these things called greenies? And it's created this program for ADHD evaluation because a lot of players were saying they had ADHD, but were using performance enhancing substances to actually help them with the sport. So one of the people on the team said, hey, would you mind doing these evaluations? Because he happened to be the team psychiatrist for the Orioles. And I said, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And that sort of just started my journey. I mean, Major League Baseball had a program, NFL picked it up, and then the NBA picked it up. So the journey sort of pivoted all the way to Arizona. Why I'm here is because my wife wanted to move back to California. And I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And we essentially settled on here. And then as we're flying over Arizona for the first time, I'm like, there's a lot of baseball fields here. And it dawned on me, spring training. Spring training is here. So about 18 teams do spring training here. So it was perfect if I transitioned here. I'm already doing work with MLB. This would be a great place to actually move to. I'd have a lot of jobs. And we've been here since 2014. And it grew to working with the Cardinals. I still work with them. WNBA, Suns, G League. I left the Diamondbacks probably about a year and a half ago, but I'm still going to be returning back to MLB to do ADHD evaluations. So that's sort of a small picture of where I am right now.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's the journey.
Yeah.
It's about pivoting.
It's interesting how it all unfolds,
Yeah.
It just naturally goes where it's supposed to go. And so when you talk about the green pills, what you're going to get into a bit of the technical, but keep it simple for us. What did the green pills do? Were they?
So the green pills are they call them greenies, are stimulants. Okay. So you remember Ritalin. Now there's a longer acting version of Ritalin, which I love, called Concerta. But they can be abused. There's Adderall. There's this big Adderall craze now. I remember in med school, I don't ever remember anybody taking stimulants at all. A lot of students are taking stimulants in these professional, graduate type programs. And a lot of them don't even have ADHD, but it does help you. It helps you essentially lock in. When you need to really focus on something, perform, it helps you focus. But it doesn't mean you necessarily have the disorder, because it'll help anyone focus. But where we come in is we actually do an evaluation to see, without this medication, is there impairment in your life? Are you leaving your garage door open and people stealing your stuff? Are you forgetting certain things at home? It can't just happen when you're playing sports. It has to actually travel in many different areas of your life. And then that's how we do our evaluation. I was one of the first people to say, okay, to a baseball player, so let me talk to your wife. Let me talk to your mom. Because moms usually don't lie about their kid having a disorder. And I would call their moms. I don't care if you were 35 years old. Give me your mom's number so I can talk to her and ask her how you were at 6 years old, how you were in 7th grade. And then you can get an idea of really what was happening if they truly had ADHD.
What does that look like? What are some of the?
Oh, yeah.
It's probably not very simple, but maybe there are some, pointers or things to look out for.
Do you remember those kids in the classroom that just would not sit down? They're always.
I was probably a little like that.
Yeah. Always getting up to sharpen their pencil 4 times during one class.
Yeah.
Those kids that when the bell rings and it's lunchtime, the ones that are running down the hall, they got to be first. Those kids that you're talking to that are looking at you, then they're looking over here, then they're looking over here, they're just all over the place.
Yeah.
That's prototypical ADHD. But they're great in sports though.
Yeah.
I think I had ADHD as a kid because my mom, I never had an off season. She made me play soccer, baseball, basketball, because she described me as a kid. I was the reason she stopped going to church because I'm the kid under the pew running around. And she stopped going to church because of me, because I had so much energy, they call it.
Yeah.
So a lot of those kids oftentimes end up in sports. So there should be, in my opinion, a higher level of ADHD in certain sports, just because that's where kids get put into, because they have that energy.
Yeah.
But doesn't always mean you have it, because there's a lot of people that use it to actually, get by to some degree.
Interesting. So when you work with these top teams in the professional leagues, are you going in one-on-one, or are you going into the whole team environment? Do you get both?
A little bit of both. So every league is a little bit different. It's amazing what's happened since, I think it was 2008 when I started to where it is now. I know in baseball's probably done it the longest and done it the best, where they have people embedded with them in your field as well, mental performance. They have therapists. They have a whole employee assistance program, at least with the Diamondbacks, that are staffed with therapists and psychiatrists and nurse practitioners. So we actually take care of the overall mental health and mental performance. So we actually have 2 separate departments when I was at the Diamondbacks, mental health and mental performance. So we would do our treatment in a group format, like orientation, to say, hey, this is what we do and this is what they do. Because it gets a little confusing for athletes, especially athletes that are from different countries, and you're trying to figure all of this out. But over time, it's really about individual work. Our way in is usually the trainer, because the trainers spend the most time with players, and they hear about their problems, and the trainer then says, hey, why don't you go talk to Dr. Lindsey? Why don't you go talk to Brooke or Charlie or somebody that are in the mental performance or therapist? And that's our segue in there. So we really got to make the players comfortable with who we are. So a lot of times we're just at the facility walking around, not working, but just sort of doing a soft consultation of just getting to know people. And a lot of times we're not even talking about mental health or mental performance. It's just really building a relationship.
Yeah. So could you speak to, in your language, the fascination of the brain?
Yes.
It's I want to put it into words, but it's like we know very little about the different galaxies and things like that, and yet right between our ears there's this unknown space and of exploration. So what would you say to that? Like, how I would imagine you have a lot of curiosity in that area.
I do. So in the medical world, the brain we describe more as the neurologist. The mind is more the mental health side. So in the MBA and WNBA, they actually have something called the Mind Health Program, where that's where all the therapists, the psychiatrists, all the mental health performance people live. So we describe it more as the mind. So the brain is more, where they do surgery and, do neurological exams and treat seizure disorders. We deal with all the things inside. And that's really what drew me to this space, because in residency, in med school, all the different rotations, I had to do surgery rotations. I had to do cardiac, I had to do family medicine. And it felt like the psych rotation was the only one I could actually sit for more than 3 minutes, talk to the person, and give them a space and a platform to actually talk. So when you talk about the mind and athletes, there's really all these different categories: who they are as a person, their family, and dealing with stress. There's usually several big categories of why they come to me. Addiction's one of them, because I'm an addiction psychiatrist as well. But it's really about managing relationships and trying to navigate how they are in society. And it's hard nowadays. You got social media, you got demands. And part of what I do is really try to help them calm the mind. I'm working with a player now. Can you give yourself 30 minutes a day of no phone, no brand manager calling you, no practice, no workout, no recovery, no friends, no family, no social media, nothing. Athletes struggle just to get 30 minutes to themselves. Because when they are alone, they're oftentimes on their phone, looking at the likes and all these different, how's this brand doing? Because they're involved in so many things, and they oftentimes forget that their mind needs a rest. There's recovery. And there's some athletes that do it very well. I mean, we all know LeBron James. He specializes in recovery. I'm trying to get my son and daughter, who are both athletes, to specialize in recovery and just unplugging and giving your mind a break.
Yeah.
Because we don't oftentimes do that.
So I like to talk about it's kind of like the ripple effect. So little change, I call about switches that go on, but there's a ripple effect throughout your life. So when someone does something as simple as that, it seems like 30 minutes doesn't mean, it is a long time in these days, but what are some of the ripple effects that you see happening?
You're really talking about something I'm sort of nerding out about a little bit: chaos theory. And the butterfly, you've heard of this thing called the butterfly effect. Yes.
I went to the convention that
really, so it came up.
Yeah. There was a whole butterfly effect theory that we all talked about, and how everything's connected.
Everything. So a lot of times when I look at a game, I don't look at the big plays. I look at these little small things that matter that a lot of people don't really care about. Like, there was a New England Patriots game. I forget who they were playing. I really should know. It was probably the Broncos. And very low scoring game. This one player on defense fell down, immediately got back up. And he was the one that stopped someone from getting the first down that led to the Broncos not scoring. That one player. And you think about the chaos theory. These little small things matter when it comes to these group or adversarial sports. Not like swimming. Swimming is more linear. It literally is linear. But when you're doing these little sports that, offense against defense, pitcher against hitter, all these little small things do matter, and they add up over time. A missed free throw, a technical foul, and all of these things and all the controllables. And I know that's probably what you're hinting at. Yeah. What are your controllables? And some teams do it better than others. And if you control all those small things, they don't become big things later on. So that's the thing I really love nerding out about. And that's really the chaos theory, what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how does that, to get a little bit deeper into that, how does that connect to the difference between a winning team, versus a losing team? What's that environment? Because you probably walk into a room and know the difference. You can feel the difference.
I can walk into a room, but I also can see it.
Okay.
Can a team, as far as their coaches and the staff, create little scenarios that are chaotic? So when chaos does happen, the team doesn't break down. Is the coach built for chaos? Meaning that those times when it's the 2-minute drill. You know, all those important times that when you're in the red zone, end of a half, beginning of a half, all of these important, really 5 critical moments of every game can be chaos. And how do you respond? And there are some coaches and some players that respond wonderful in those situations. I know I was not a great person that responded great in chaos. I remember in high school, my senior year, there were 2 outs, 9th inning, we're down by 1. We have a runner on second. I'm on deck. And the guy in front of me gets a base hit. And I'm trying to wave that guy in from second. Like, come on, like, just let's go. Because all the pressure would be on me. Mm-hmm. And of course, I hit a ground ball, shortstop, ended the season. Season's over.
Yeah.
And it's just really, I don't think I was ever trained to remain at a high level in those high pressure moments, which are chaotic, because your mind is going to all these other places. And if your mind isn't trained to think, you know, I can versus I can't, or what would happen if I don't do this, and me literally trying to wave this guy in so I don't have to be in that pressure situation, right? So the ones that train chaos very well are the ones that usually perform very well. And you can see it with the teams.
Okay.
You can easily see it. And it depends on the coach's background, how comfortable they are, and are they trained in that? Do they have a mental performance person helping them with that stuff?
Yeah, that's
so
good.
All that matters.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm gonna, jump into the area that I'll share on my end and see if it relates to you. Mm-hmm. So what I do today, part of my arc was I started with the dream of going to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I ultimately didn't. I was the next guy to go. So that's kind of like the sore that never heals. So it creates this curiosity in what I do today. And I try to be, for others, what I wish I could have, been around or exposed to. So is there any element to what you do today is connected to what you would have liked to have had, or anything connected to that?
Well, the way I describe it is that I feel my role is really to help these high-performing athletes, but the ones that aren't performing as they should.
Okay.
And know that's within them. And I'm an addiction doctor. Mm-hmm. As you know, certain drugs were now not tested for. We're just going to say it, marijuana. Mm-hmm. Is not tested for anymore in most of the leagues. I think the NFL still tests for it. And I've noticed in my own personal experience is that, again, controlling the controllables. You can control what you put in your body. And I have found that a lot of athletes that struggle may oftentimes have that in their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I've run into some athletes that have recently stopped using that substance, and their careers are skyrocketing.
Yeah, let's talk to that. I want to hear that.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I remember at the winter meetings, they had all the mental performance people. We always had like a few 3-day session where it's all the mental health people. Mm-hmm. And then the day after we left, it got announced. Major League Baseball is no longer testing for marijuana in the minor leagues. And we all looked at each other and said, we were just there. Why didn't we have any time? Why didn't we discuss this? Why didn't we know? And little do you know, within a few years, I'm starting to see players that are just stagnant. They're not getting anywhere, especially pitchers are just, they're not hitting their times. And I wouldn't say the majority of them, but there was an alarmingly enough of them that were using marijuana because it's not tested anymore. Yeah. And it saps performance. It's fun. It does a lot of things to help you. I mean, there is some medicine in it because I do a lot of study on marijuana. But I've just found that it oftentimes gets in the way, and it's a controllable. It gets in the way of performance. And some of the athletes that I've worked with, and I'm not always against marijuana, but I'm about controlling it. Or why not just use it in the off season? Or why not delay it? I mean, you can make so much money now. You could buy 10 dispensaries when you're done, right? So let's just have some delayed gratification. And I've just seen a number of athletes go from not performing well to now being locked in once they're sober or controlling it and not using it during critical times, like during the season, night before a game. If it's your off day, if you have a week off, okay, you can dabble, but not every day. We got to get away from that because it just saps your performance. For instance, you have probably less than a second in baseball from when that ball leaves the pitcher's hand to where it gets to the plate. You got to tell if it's an off speed, a curve, you got to know all those things. Marijuana sort of slows the brain down a little bit and you can't make that calculation. And I've just seen batting averages drop for some people. It's pretty easy to see it. And once we stop using certain things like that, there's increased performance. And so I bring it up because I ran into an athlete recently. I have never worked with them, but we just sort of got on that topic, right? Once you find out I'm an addiction doctor, we sort of just gravitate toward talking about marijuana. And he mentioned, oh yeah, I stopped using that 6 months ago. I'm like, okay. And then he told me his history and I was like, okay, I know who you are and how you have this reputation. And then to see his performance, like, wow, this doesn't even look like the same guy that was on this other team. He's a totally different player. And he says, like, I have more time now to focus on my craft. My mind is clear. All the things I was doing associated with marijuana, I'm not doing those anymore. And he's playing phenomenal. The thing he said to me, he regrets that he didn't do this sooner because he missed out on millions of dollars, endorsements, all of these things because he was just doing that and things that came along with it.
I like to say I grew up in Oregon, so that was our number one export back when it was illegal. So, but you know, I would never, no judgment. I've always been a performance-minded person, whether I knew it or not. So I was always looking at patterns. And for me, my journey was a personal relationship with pain, and that pain was my greatest teacher. And that's what I didn't understand, because there were kids at my school, that some of my friends that chose to do it, and I didn't judge them at all. They were still my buddies, but I just noticed that they just didn't have that same sort of drive. And that's what I would question, is that what's your relationship to pain? Because pain is the teacher. Pain creates the necessity for you to have to figure out the puzzle piece, right? So I think that there's a lot to that without any judgment, just curious, you know. So I appreciate you sharing that.
If you don't mind me asking, the friends that had that, they were using certain things to mask the pain, to control the pain.
Probably. I mean, you know, back then it's high school. I'm not going to really get into what they're going through. You know, they maybe the cool crowd that, you know, were doing their thing and, you know, hanging out under the bleachers, not doing much. And, you know, that was fine. They were funny. They were good to be around. But for me, I was so motivated. I just felt like that's going to slow down performance. I just knew it inherently that I need to feel the pain, the discomfort.
It's interesting you said that, because there's treating the pain, but there's also the pain from performance, not you know, structural damage or anything, but swimming a 200 fly hurts. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's some athletes, I'm not doing that because it hurts. I'm doing the 100, I'm doing the 50, and there's just some people that embrace the pain and some people that are like, nah, I don't really want to feel that pain. Like, my limit is here.
Definitely.
So it's interesting.
It is interesting. So now I'll, you know, why don't we turn this around, and do you have some questions?
I actually do have some questions for you. Yes, I do. I know most people don't come here and ask you questions.
Let's do it.
All right, I've got 4, but I'll start off with an easy one. Have you noticed any difference in working with elite athletes that are male and elite athletes that are female, as far as just their approach to working with mental performance? What's been your experience with that, if there are any differences at all?
Well, there are differences, yes. Well, I did swim at UCLA, where the only way you could swim, they didn't have a men's team.
Right.
So
That's right.
they only have a women's team. And I remember the coach saying to me, because I was, why are we stopped all the time talking? And he said, just trust me, it goes better that way.
Yeah.
So there's probably a little bit more discussion, a lot more connectivity, just kind of being, I have 2 daughters, and so I'm in a household of women. Yes, it's very different. Yeah. I grew up in a masculine environment when I was, younger, just my brother and my dad, and my mom was kind of quiet. So very 2 different planets. But I think that my experience has been really great, really amazing. Just to be curious, just to be open. I don't really see a difference in the sense of, male versus female as far as the kind of the warrior mindset, you might say. They're both cold killers, because you have to be to be the hunter. And so I've enjoyed working with both. There's probably just a tempo difference, where with guys in general, it's pretty quick and it's very specific, and I can get into the aggression side. I might do, with females, it might be a little bit slower process of, talking through, kind of like the intricacies of things, the relationships between. But I've enjoyed it a lot. I mean, having daughters has been amazing just because really it seems like our culture is discovered and showcased female sports, and I love it. It's so much fun. Yeah. My daughter plays basketball and I love it, and so it's been fun to work with both men and women. Does that answer your?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, because I've
What
noticed.
would you say?
The most enriching interactions I've had in treating elite athletes has been the WNBA. And it's just easier to have that conversation. And maybe it's the environment, like you said. I was raised by my mom, older sister, a lot of aunts, 2 uncles, and I have a daughter as well. And it's just, the conversation just flows a little bit easier at the beginning. I'd say for the male athletes, it's hard at the beginning, but once you're in, you're in. It's really, and I always find that it has to do with trust. Who is this guy? Why is he asking so many questions? And then, but eventually they break down the barriers. Whereas the female athletes I've worked with, just conversation just happens, just walking down the hall. And I can't get to where I'm going in the building without having a conversation with somebody. So I just found it to be a little bit more, open as far as having those discussions with the mental health people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And having daughters to me is just such a blessing. And there's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk through on the emotional side.
Oh, yeah.
And but they move through it quick. That's what's interesting, is that males will tend to hold it inside and you kind of dig a little bit, versus a female generally will allow it to come forward and allow it to be gray, allow it to be ugly quickly,
And
right
can
away.
sit in it.
Yes.
And process it.
And
not
it's so
be
helpful.
afraid.
Yeah, and that's that pain and that discomfort. They'll explore that area with a lot more awareness. So I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. When do you think athletes, we'll talk about the young athlete, when do you think they're ready to really work with someone like yourself, a mental performance, certified mental performance specialist? What's sort of that age range? Because I see some parents that, my 9-year-old's not doing this. I'm like, but they're 9.
Yeah.
Versus the 16-year-old and the parents are like, I can't do this anymore. Or do you think they're better, well-equipped mentally, developmentally when they're in college? Like, what age range do you think? I know everyone's individual, but what's the range you've seen as like the sweet spot to just begin understanding some concepts?
It's a great question. I've just served whoever's shown up. So I've actually worked with a 10-year-old world champion golfer.
Wow.
Why is there a world champion at 10?
Right.
That's the first question.
Right.
And I struggled with it at first when the parents were, asking me to do it. Not in a sense, I just, so my history is that I started my sport when I was 14. So I didn't even know how to swim until I was 14.
You have to be kidding me.
No,
14?
That's
really late.
Yeah, usually they start, especially now they start younger and younger. So they start when they're, I don't know, 8.
That's exactly.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. And so I was watching the Olympics, and it was just this decision. It's kind of like Kobe when he said, can I do that? And he started studying the greats.
So you literally just happened to be watching the Olympics and said,
yeah, I want to do that.
Wow.
And this girl had won a gold medal. And, I believe in timing, some sort of connection to something beyond. And I remember saying, there was an announcer that asked her, if there's someone out there that wants to do what you just did, which is me.
You're watching it.
Yeah. What would you recommend? And I said, whatever she says, that's what I'm going to do. And like I said, I'm from a small town in Oregon. And she said, I went through a YMCA. So back then, Yellow Pages, looked up the YMCA, went down there. 2 lanes, tiny, basement pool. Walked up to the head coach and I said, I want to go to the Olympics. Can you help me?
Come on.
Yeah, it's weird. But, to me, it was an experiment.
Yeah.
I call it now, in hindsight, a mental experiment. Yeah. Because my dad neither of my parents were athletes, but they raised me with all kinds of self-improvement stuff, right? So I had a lot of these, how you use the mind and goal setting and all these sort of things. And so I was like, why don't I use these things that are in these books and see if they can actually work? And it was just this project. Because I wasn't an athlete. I didn't do any other sports at all.
This makes no sense.
It doesn't. It goes counter to everything, especially the specialization that we have nowadays. Yeah. And so I started going to this, the YMCA coach, he asked, do you know how to swim? And I said, no. And he started laughing and he goes, okay, well, you're gonna have to learn with these 8-year-olds. So little second graders, and they're coming up to my waist, and they would kick my butt every day. But this, it goes back to the relationship to pain. I was never winning, I was always learning. And that was my relationship to sports, was this curiosity of like, okay, how can I get better? In timing, my dad had this book on mental, it was on, actually, it was memory, but they had this experiment on basketball. And they had done this 3-month study in Australia, basketball players shooting free throws. And one group was traditional, just physical training. The next group was the control group, didn't do anything. And then they had a third group that was the mental. They didn't touch a ball, but they did train the mind. 3 months later, they came back and tested them. And they found that the group that was physical, they had improved 24%, control was 0, and then the mental was 23. So I was like, 24, 23, 47, let's combine them too.
Yeah.
So that my relationship was, to the mental was totally performance-based. This is gonna be my X factor.
That's very Phil Jackson-like.
Yeah.
Because I think he was the master of the mind and the physicality and putting them together. And I think that's why he was so successful, because he did it with 2 teams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, starting so late, and then I'm working, gonna work with this 10-year-old. I felt like if there's anyone that can help him, help his parents actually, it would be me. So I'm not going to abandon him.
Right.
That became the project. It was, I want to bring understanding to the fact that, hey, you got to love this. It's got to be simple, and I just tried to teach the parents more than actually the kid.
Right.
And so we were all in on the call together. The mom was always sitting next to him. And it was great. It was a really good experience. And so I think that it can start young. It just, you kind of show up where they're at that. But I use those learnings with, top NHL, NBA, you name it, and be able to say to them, hey, we need to go back to being 10 years old. So a lot of them have become kind of case studies for both, right? So my brother started when he was 17 and we both became national champions. So it's a very weird, that's why I do what I do now, is like this power of the mind. If you only understood like how powerful this thing is, we can unlock so much.
Because the one thing I always try to help with some of my friends who are parents of athletes is that, and I found it myself, is that there was a certain age, and this follows development, where a child starts wanting to do things on their own, become independent. And my words, even though they might be right, they're not going to listen to me because I'm the parent. I'd rather go hire someone that's a specialist, and they'll eventually say some of the same things, but it'll hit the kid. They'll listen, and it'll click in their mind. And I don't feel bad about that. I just feel that they need to hear from a different voice. And I think that's where a lot of parents, they get stuck. They keep pushing, their what they want to say and what they want to do for the kid, as opposed to just step back, let the kid breathe, let them see someone else, if they have the funds and the money to do so, or maybe hopefully the team can actually bring somebody in. But I found that to be the most helpful, where the parental folks step back and just let somebody else just handle the mind portion of it.
Well, that's what I like to start with is I try to say, look, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And you know what? I'm going to be saying a lot of what you've already said before. It'll just be coming from a neutral party. And, if they're a teenager too, they'll admit to me they're actually listening to you.
Do you actually share that with the parent?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I like to circle back with parents just to be able to say, you're on the front line. What do you see?
Yeah.
And more information is better for me. So as much as you'll feed me, the better I can be at what I do, so that I can kind of steer the conversation. I won't tell the source, but I'll be able to know the direction we want to head in. And I think it's really helped, the parent-child relationship, to where they really, especially if they are teenagers, because teenagers tend to shift a lot. And
oh boy, yes.
Yeah. And so the parents are just kind of almost like in this quiet lands trying to, are they okay? Are they doing all?
I know so many swim parents that are in that space right now, because the kids are juniors and seniors are like, okay, this is the pivotal time of year.
Yeah.
And what's happening?
Exactly.
So they're struggling right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been rewarding to be able to kind of, be that sort of connection or part of the loop.
Awesome. I have one more question for you, and it is Black History Month, so we're going to do a cultural question.
Okay.
All right. So looking at the leagues I work with, like MLB, baseball, basketball, football, and the W, and just looking culturally at that, I looked at some statistics. I think players of color for baseball is like 50 or 60%. I think WNBA, NBA, and NFL, I think 73% is the lowest, and like 80% was the highest. I think that was, I want to say NBA or NFL, possibly. And I know a lot of the mental health professionals are not people of color, but we have a lot. And I've always wondered about the lens that people come, because I've seen some mental health professionals that, how do they say? I don't see like culture or color. I'm like, but you kind of have to, because especially in baseball, you kind of have to see that. And I always try to tell them to put that every person is built up of layers. First, you see them as whatever gender they are, whatever sport they're playing, then what position they're playing. I mean, Josh Allen's going to be very different than somebody on a baseball team that doesn't really play that much, because of either the position and who they are. And then you have to put in all these other layers, first round pick, not drafted, their contract, how much money, because all of these layers. And then you have to get into the layer of their background and getting to know them, and then the culture. Because in baseball, we've known that a player from Venezuela and a player from Dominican Republic are going to be a lot of times very different, just different cultures. For instance, like a lot of the Venezuelan players, they don't go back home because there's repercussions and getting back and forth. It's difficult for them versus the players from Dominican go back and forth. And I think it's worthwhile to know all of those things. And I think baseball does a great job of that. But just wanted to know in your dealings with other mental performance people, as far as just to dive into the cultural background of the athlete that you're working with, because I think that's a big thing when you are at the highest level.
Okay, that's
it's a big long.
That's a big one, but I think it's important. I would say, okay, so I'll start with this. So your name, it's from a jazz musician?
Yeah, so back in the 70s, so all the Rahsaans that are black males in the United States are probably going to be around 50 right now because he was playing in the 70s. And my dad loved acid jazz. I don't like acid jazz at all, right?
Yeah.
So my mom looked at the moniker and said, I like that name. So his name was Roland Kirk, and he changed his name to Rahsaan Roland Kirk. Like Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali. A lot of African American males changed their name. So it's a Muslim name.
Okay.
And my middle name is actually a Muslim named after another jazz player too.
Yeah. Okay, so this goes back. I've always been this pattern person, whether I knew it or not. And so I remember asking this question, Black history, why are a lot of the jazz documentaries done by white people? And I asked a few different people that I trusted, and I think it's because when you're on the outside, you can actually see it clearer at times. And so you can kind of look at, and so when I work with sports, I don't play a lot of these sports. I don't even follow these sports.
Right.
I don't even know these famous people that I work with.
You're not a fan of them.
Yes.
And I think those are the best professionals. They're not following every stat for all their players.
They'll have to tell me like how they, I'll check in sometimes, but I don't have that much time. I'm working with other people. And so, but I've learned that it's a strength, working with a PGA champion. And he was telling me, he says, I think your outside perspective is actually your strength, that you don't talk golf talk.
Yes.
And so I think that there is an element of curiosity within me of how, where do you come from? What does it mean when you walk into a room, into an environment of unknown people or whatever, and I try to explore it.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure what, others would do, because I've always been kind of labeled as, the silent weapon, the secret weapon, where I work outside the organization. And
as a consultant.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how I function too.
It's usually like when I do a lot of speaking. So when I do the speaking, especially with a team, a lot of times, because if it's a coach, the coach will send me players that need help, so to speak. But when I speak to the team, it'll be the alpha. It'll be the leaders that will track me down in the hallway and say, hey man, I want to talk to you more. You speak my language. And so that's what's been interesting, is that I speak about these sort of high level environments of greatness. So that's kind of this, well, it's definitely this podcast. What it's all about is like, what are the little factors that add up to making you that much better than others? And that, I think, is that curiosity. And everyone's very, very different. So I try to really understand, like, I'm just very, very curious.
Right. And I think that goes a long way, because learning all the layers of a person can actually give you a better understanding, because if you're missing out on one of those layers, that might have a lot of influence. You're missing the whole picture. Yeah,
working with NBA, for instance. I'm big into communication. So your thoughts and your words and your actions are connected. So working with NBA players, I'll talk to the agents and try to understand, like, where are they emotionally? And, professional athletes tend to, live in this sort of bubble where emotionally they can stay, what dare I say, immature, like younger than their, years.
Regressed.
Yeah. Yeah, that delayed adolescence sort of thing.
It's interesting. We talk about this a lot when we nerd out amongst ourselves as these high-level sports. We'll just call it football and basketball. When you go to college in these high D1 level schools, they are coddled. They are taken care of.
Yeah.
Everything is taken care of.
Yeah,
Your whole life is scheduled.
exactly.
When you get to the pros, okay, practice is over. Go do whatever you need to do. And a lot of them struggle because they've never had to create their life outside of that, versus a normal college kid who doesn't have all those responsibilities,
Yeah.
are used to scheduling their lives and having to figure it out. But I've run into so many rookies where they struggle. Like, oh no, my teammates have families. They're going to their home. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not hanging out with you because, I mean, and then these rookies really struggle. So I find that exactly what you're talking about is that can be a problem for many athletes at that level.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as communication, accountability, and trying to figure out their tempo. Like, how do you communicate, and like, how do you get through your life, your day? And that's been really interesting because there will be people from, in the NBA now, a lot of French players.
Yes.
So you have this blend, and then there's a lot of players from all over the world, and just trying to understand and meet them where they come from. And, the spotlight. When I start with someone, I'll start to talk about, being famous or well known is a strange thing. It's how do you handle that?
Yes.
How do you handle the spotlight? When you're objectified, you're made into an object. How do you remain a human being? Do you have people in your life that are still treating you like a son, a grandson, a buddy, those sort of things?
The people in your life exactly is what I'm working on with the player. They have too many people that, I'm going to use your word, I'm stealing it, objectify them.
Yeah.
They use them. I use the word takers.
Yeah.
There's just people that want to take pieces of you. And you find yourself, you look around and all the people around you are takers.
Yep.
And it's really frustrating for athletes once they finally realize that. And that, how do I get back to having genuine, authentic relationships with people as opposed to people that only want something from me or want me to do something for them?
Exactly. And a lot of the times they can feel it, they just don't know how to describe it.
Or have the courage
Yeah.
to have an uncomfortable, painful conversation.
Yeah, and that comes back from, a lot of the things that I've learned has come from the discomfort, the pain, and trying to understand, where is this player struggling? Because the way my process is to kind of take myself into their situation and backwards engineer, like, what's going on? I can feel it. And a lot of times it is that they focus so much on the doing and not on the being, the human being element. And then we'll talk about balance and, the relationships in their life. And then we do it on a regular basis to where I'm like, okay, are your buddies your buddies, your parents your parents? You have people in your life that just see you as the person. And that's really, really key, I think, especially nowadays with social media and all the noise that's in the world.
The noise. And
Yeah.
I often try to get them to unplug. Because it's, a lot of us see them on TV and all the things they can do, and they're such a great person, but they don't really realize there's another job after the bell or the sound, or not the sound, but the time clock goes out. After that, now the next job starts. And oftentimes it's not recovering, it's not doing all these things, it's the brand and the social media and the posting and all these other things that they're involved with. And that can be distracting for some players.
I think it'd be distracting for most of us if you're not familiar with it. I mean, it's definitely a weird sort of thing that you're walking around and people think they know you. They've never met you. And, how do you handle that? And especially with social media, I mean, the thing is you have instant access. Back in my day with swimming, I mean, I had done well enough to make a little bit of money, be sponsored by Nike, and have an agent, but I had no contact with the outside world. I was in my own little bubble.
Much easier back.
Absolutely, because you just focus on the doing, the job. And then the human being part was like, okay, I'll just go over here because, I don't have people following me, like followers. So how does that, to circle back to the mental part of this, how does that connect to, kind of what you've noticed as far as the environment and how it's changed, and how like someone that whether it's a high level player or it's a younger player, dealing with social media or dealing with the, that connectivity, and how the brain and the mind and, anything that you want to share?
Well, it becomes addictive. It literally becomes an addiction. There's many studies out there that talk about social media and just how it's created to give you a stimulus every few seconds. And that's an addiction. And a lot of people don't know that or don't want to realize that because they're attaching who they are to that. And a lot of times their financial lifestyle is connected to that. And so you have all these incentives to do it, to add followers, no matter what you do. And you lose track of how I got here in the first place. I got here because I'm a great athlete, not necessarily all these other things. And some people care more about how they are viewed on social media than they are actually of their performance. And it's a struggle. We work with athletes, we talk about it, we give them some awareness of it, but really it ultimately comes down to them and who they have in their life. I have found that the athletes that, I don't want to be ageist, but that have kids, that have, a different lifestyle, oftentimes they don't care as much about that. And these are the more mature, veteran type players. It's usually these younger ones. And there's some athletes that have come into the league that have millions of followers, and that's what I wouldn't say what got them there, but the hype about it. But when you see them on the court or the field, they're okay. They're not great. They're better than average, but if you look at the number of likes, you would think they're like Michael Jordan or something like that, right? And we really try to get them to see, okay, you are more than an athlete. You are also more than what people say about you on social media. And sometimes you just gotta, that's that word again, unplug. Because they have brands. So many athletes have brands and they use social media to get it out there. And let's dial it back a little bit and just get to the basics, the core of while you're doing it. And like you said, go back to when you were 10. Why did you want to play the sport? Let's get back to that. All right, all these other things are distractions because it takes time, it takes mental energy, and your mind needs to rest at some point.
Okay.
And you can see the athletes, you literally can see the athletes on the sideline sometimes that have worked with people like you, because there's one commercial, LeBron James, he's sitting on the sideline, there's chaos around him, but it's locked in. Just not even, the play's already been discussed what they're gonna do, but he's just mindful, and he's doing all of these things just to clear out the noise and focus on what I have to do at this next play, this critical moment. And if we can teach athletes to take that same mindset, okay, clear out the social media, clear out family, friends, and just recover and clear your mind, I think we'd have better athletes.
Absolutely.
Be a lot less penalties, a lot less fouls, a lot less of these things that are controllables that people forget, because they're distracted, they're not focused and locked in, just for a few seconds. Just put it down.
Yeah. So I'm a geek with what I do, and so I'm all about performance. I tell that to people I work with, that whatever works, and within the rules.
Right, within the rules.
And so I just kind of discover things as we go. And one of the things that I kind of knew about it, because probably my mom said it to me a long time ago, but I've really, really focused on is sleep.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language.
So I've just gone into it in a very organic sort of way, because I knew, get more sleep. Everyone says that. And then I started doing the Aura Ring or the Whoop. I had the Whoop, or a bunch of other ones, the Garmin and the Apple Watch. And once I got the metrics, and my wife got, now we have sleep number competitions and stuff like that. Just fun little competitive things. But it's cool to have some sort of measurement of it. Now, you mentioned LeBron, rest in the mind. once I really started digging into it, I was like, LeBron sleeps 10 hours and then he has a 2-hour nap. He's sleeping 12 hours. And he's been said, I know it's not officially disclosed, spending somewhere around $1 million or beyond on recovery every single year. And his longtime trainer of 20 years says the irony is, out of all of these things that we spend all this money on, sleep, the free thing, is the most important thing.
And it's a controllable.
Yeah. And then, I found out that Usain Bolt sleeps 10 hours. He was sleeping like all the way up until 30 minutes before he broke the world record. Federer slept at least 10 hours a day. And if he didn't get 10 hours, he said, I wasn't the same player. So speak to us and really give us the sleep.
All right, we got a lot to talk about here. Real world example in my house. So my son, he's a high-level swimmer in high school. He will sleep 12 hours if I let him. And it's insane how long this kid can sleep. And I see when he doesn't sleep as much, he's cranky, short in conversations, doesn't perform well. Now your eating is off cycle as well. Versus, being able to get whatever level of sleep you need to perform. The way we have a system now is set up to discourage sleeping because energy drinks, caffeine, chewing tobacco, nicotine, what else do a lot of athletes use? Pouches, nicotine pouches. All of these things pre-workout, pre-workout. Pre-workout has a little caffeine in it. There's so many things that athletes do that are anti-sleep. Look at this. Look at the time that games end. We expect a baseball player to finish a game around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. They got another game the next day. What if the next game's in LA and you're in San Diego? They got to then get on a plane. You're going to sleep on a plane? Then you got to get to a hotel place that you're not familiar with and rest. And they struggle. That's one of the biggest things that players come to me for is sleep, because they cannot manage sleep. There's also another athlete I was working with. So we come up with many different ways to solve that problem for them. My first thing, even though I prescribe medication, my thing is, what are you doing to mismanage your sleep? Are you on your phone after a certain time? Get off your phone. Are you drinking caffeine? Are you using caffeine during the game or whatever event you're doing? Let's try to limit that, okay? Because that saps your sleep. And then we talk about medications. Are you using anything to help you sleep? Because there are a lot of people out there, a lot of athletes that are using things to try and help them sleep. We talked about marijuana earlier, but there's another component of marijuana called cannabidiol, or CBD. It's actually legal now in Major League Baseball. I think the brand is Charlotte's Web. That's been, authorized by Major League Baseball. It actually can help with sleep. So sleep, I believe, is one of the number one controllables and one of the things that people overlook that saps performance. If you get enough of it, just watch how your performance will grow if you get the right amount of sleep. But do people really know how much sleep they need? Because they're doing so many things all the time. So that, I think, is a key for so many people of the highest level.
Absolutely.
Is sleep.
Absolutely. So do you have any, it is a controllable, I would say you're making the decision earlier in the day, or your routine. You're trying to make it so it's not really a choice. It's just part of your habits and routine. What are your suggestions as far as people being able to, set themselves up for sleep? Because one of the big components of sleep is repetition, right? That your body gets used to sleeping on a regular schedule.
You got to plan it. You have to plan sleep. You have to know what your schedule's going to be and what's your schedule the next day, and where can I put my sleep? And I, just personal talk here, I'm very sensitive to caffeine. I can drink chai. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink any Red Bull, Rockstar, or Mountain Dew, none of that stuff. A chai can take care of me. But if I drink that chai after 11 a.m., I know I'm not going to sleep well. I'm not going to bed till midnight. I'm that sensitive. So a person has to know how they sleep, what they need to sleep. And if I put certain things in my body, what's that going to do to my sleep? So I know I plan my sleep. If I don't have anything to do the next day, I will have my chai. I'll dare myself. I'll just have a chai around 12 noon because I love the way it tastes. And I'm okay. I'll stay up till 2 o'clock. I'm fine. But I have to be at work at the hospital. I'm having the chai at 6 a.m. So I know what things do to me. So all these athletes seem to know what things they're putting in their body, how they affect them, what does that do to my sleep, and then plan my day knowing what's tomorrow. But a lot of people, that requires planning and executive function and all of those things that your brain and maturity to say, hey, I need sleep. Because I had a professional athlete mention that to me recently. They've had people ask them, how are you still playing this sport this well? Because you are out with us till whatever hour, multiple times. How do you do this? And that sleep gets shrunk until they break. The brain needs sleep.
Yeah.
There's something called delirium, and something that, I don't want to get too medieval on you, but that's part of what people did to torture people, is to not let them sleep so you can get information from it. They found that it doesn't really work, but they still do it. And sleep is one of the biggest things that human beings need to survive.
Wow.
Yeah. And one thing that, from working where I work with a lot of homeless people because I work in an addiction unit. And I asked them questions about methamphetamine. Methamphetamine oftentimes is used to stay up at night. So I'm not getting mugged. I'm not getting robbed at night because I'm awake. That's why you see me sleeping during the day. Because I have to stay up at night. And that's why I use meth, so I can actually be awake and be safe.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and they're doing what? They're controlling their sleep.
Yeah.
They're sleeping when it's safe.
Yeah.
So sleep, all of us need sleep, but it just depends on what we're doing and what we need to do to survive. So sleep is very critical for all of us, not just professional athletes.
Yeah, it's something I came to, it was just such a big thing.
Yes.
Like, it was massive.
Massive.
Because it's connected to injury rate. Like, if you get less than 6-7 hours, it's like your injury rate dramatically goes up. It's connected to your performance as far as... What's that?
Mistakes.
Penalties.
Yes. All of those things.
Yes.
Sleep.
And it's so simple. But the simple things, right, they get overlooked, especially nowadays.
Butterfly effect.
Exactly.
The simple things.
Those little switches. Okay, so that takes me to my final section, which is the pep talk.
Okay,
So for people out there, what would be some of your recommendations? It could be something that we've already talked about, but a chance to say, okay, I've been around, you're a great example of success. You've been around other successful people. What would you recommend to people to?
Well, two things. First is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. I found with a lot of athletes, they sometimes put people around them in their circle that don't support their goals, and will oftentimes put them in situations that sort of put them in dangerous places where it can hurt their brand, their performance, their family, them as a person. And it's really about courage to say no. Athletes, people have to learn how to say no to situations that aren't pushing them forward if you have a goal and you want to get there. And not saying that you have to be so, generic and get all, different characters out of your life, but you have to know when to say no. Athletes I work with that struggle with alcoholism, you go to a function after a game, there's always wine, there's always this. Do you have the courage to say no? Like, no, I'm fine. I'll just take the water. Because one leads to another, and there's always another event you have to go to. We as humans celebrate by food and drink. That's what we do as humans. Do you have the ability to navigate those environments and say no if you know this is going to cause problems for me and my performance. So I say all that to say, ability to say no. Second part is to know who you are, right? Take some time, introspection, and know what your goals are. There's this exercise that I've seen people do, a values exercise. And it has about 50 words on a piece of paper, and they're all values, different values. And the first part of the exercise is say, pick 15. It's hard to pick 15 out of 40, you believe it. The last part is to pick 2 out of the 15. These 2 are really how you view how you're gonna live your life. And I don't think a lot of people sort of do this exercise, not necessarily that exercise, but how are you living your life? What are your goals in life? And really just trying to hone in on that as opposed to this outside noise. Say, hey, you want to do this? You want to, oh, this looks fun, oh, this shiny thing. No, what are your values? What are your core values? And how do you stick to that? Because there's always somebody else out there that has an agenda for you, has something for you, but it's not really what you want to do.
Yeah.
So those are my few things. Just know yourself and learn how to say no. That's it.
That's it.
That'll eliminate so many things in your life that really are just noise.
And it's choice.
It's a choice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming. This has been amazing. Now, are you okay if people contact you, or is there some way for people to reach out to you, or would you rather just be the
I stay out. I'm behind the scenes because I have a lot of hats.
Okay.
And I work with a lot of people. Not just, sports is just one aspect.
Yeah.
Because there's the hospital side and all the other, volunteer things that I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And I try not to dabble too many. I've learned how to say no.
Choice. Well, I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
This has been amazing. So thank you for spending time with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.